Hi, this is Joe Elsasser, President and founder of Covisum, and also a practicing financial advisor, and welcome to another FinPlan Friday. Today's topic is the retirement earnings test under Social Security, and it's probably one of the most talked about things by people on the edge of retirement. The way you'll hear it phrased is, how much can I make and still collect my full Social Security? Now, there's a simple answer, but oftentimes that simple answer misses some nuance that will allow you to develop better claiming strategies for your clients. So we're going to explore today both retirement earnings tests. The annual earnings test, that's the one that is most commonly known, and the monthly earnings test, a little less commonly known. Now, the annual earnings test has two tiers. The first tier is for every year up until the calendar year that the client reaches full retirement age. And for every year up until the calendar year the client reaches full retirement age, they can actually earn $19,560 in 2022. Now, of course, that number goes up every year. So $19,560 in 2022. And for every $2 above that amount, $1 of Social Security benefit is withheld. A second tier for that same annual earnings test rule applies in the year the client turns full retirement age. So that tier is much higher and the penalty is actually much lower. It's $51,960 that they can earn in 2022 before there's any earnings penalty at all. And then above that amount, it's $1 for every $3. So $1 of benefits penalty for every $3 above the limit. So we've just covered the annual earnings test, two tiers based on whether the client is under full retirement age or whether they're in the calendar year that they reach full retirement age. The second earnings test is called the monthly earnings test. And in the monthly earnings test, you basically take 1/12 of the amounts we just discussed, and for each month that the client does not have that level of earnings, they can collect a full Social Security benefit check. Now, typically, the monthly earnings test is used for clients who are in their year of retirement. So maybe a client is retiring at age 64. So they're well under full retirement age, but they are going to stop work this year. Maybe they're a school teacher and they stop work in June. But up until June, they made well over 1/12 of $19,560. So for those months up till June, they would have the earnings penalty. They would not be eligible to collect a Social Security benefit for those months. But beginning in June, because they have zero earnings, they can collect a full Social Security benefit under the monthly earnings test. So typically that is used in the year of retirement. There are some special situations though for somebody like an independent contractor who might have a bunch of earnings in one month, then a few months with no earnings, then a bunch of earnings in another month. And so that is where you get some relatively interesting planning strategies under that monthly earnings test. One caution there is that it can only be used for 1 year, and that's why it's typically used for the year of retirement. Now, some of the planning strategies that arise when you understand the nuances around the earnings test, particularly the annual earnings test, is you may often want to have a lower wage earner in a couple claim early if they have some earnings that are over the limit, but not so much in earnings that it completely eliminates their benefit. Now, why would you want to do that? The reason is you can think of that lower earner's benefit as a first to die annuity in a married couple. So it's only going to last as long as both members of the household are alive. And so if it might have made sense for them to claim early in spite of the earnings penalty, then it often does, even when you account for the earnings penalty. And the reason is because once they reach full retirement age, their benefit will be adjusted upwards by any months that they did not receive a Social Security check due to the earnings test. So in that way, the Social Security retirement earnings test is not, the penalty is not a tax. Instead, it results in a recalculation of the client's Social Security benefit when they reach full retirement age. And so if, for example, 12 months of checks were missed as a result of the test, then the benefit will be recalculated at full retirement age, and it would be treated as though they had elected 1 year later. So actuarially, it ends up being the same thing. It's not a tax in that way. Ultimately, you've got a variety of layers of earnings test rules, and as a result of those layers, there are a variety of planning strategies for advisors to be mindful of. For those of you who use Social Security timing, you should be aware that the annual earnings test is part of the planning software. The monthly earnings test is not. And so when you have those monthly earnings test opportunities, it really makes a lot of sense to walk through that rule set either with your support person or with the documentation. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a fantastic day, and we look forward to the next FinPlan Friday.